Hey everyone, you're listening to the Simple Electronics Podcast. I'm your host, Dan from the Simple Electronics YouTube channel. And this episode is brought to you by PCBWay, but more about that later on. I'm just in the tail end of another human malware infection. And so this episode was not going to happen if I just couldn't rope someone else in that would be patient with my coughing and that can deal with all sorts of nonsense today. So with me, I have roped in another maker, Florida man himself. How are you, another maker?
I'm doing wonderful, man. I've been thinking about it. This podcast is a lot like my coding. What I lack in quality, I definitely make up for in quantity.
Okay. Well, what about people like me who don't do quantity or quality when it comes to coding? Are we doomed?
We just make do. But I appreciate you having me back. This is a bunch of times I've been on your podcast, and it is an honor every single time.
Well, I appreciate hearing that. There are literally hundreds of people at this point who listen to the podcast every week. And far be it from me to be the one to disappoint them. So this episode is possible because of another maker. So I want everyone to go onto his channel and comment a little thank you on one of his videos. So hopefully we're going to see a deluge of comments.
I appreciate that.
Well, what's been new with you? I know you've been working on some stuff at home. What's been up?
I've been busy. I sort of thought that this beginning of this year was going to be a slowdown of my business and all that, and instead, things have just kind of picked up a little bit. So it's been busy. I've been working on a bunch of projects for work. We'll get into a little bit of that, and I've also been renovating my garage. One of the issues I've got about 600 square feet. Have no idea what that is in square meters, but I've got like 600 square feet in my shop. But a lot of times I wind up doing these physical projects like cutting and drilling, and that just absolutely trashes my lab. And so, expanding a little bit into my garage. And so, what I'm doing is I ripped out everything in my garage, put a new ceiling in, and I'm sectioning off a little bit of my garage to be a laundry room. And then the rest of it I'm turning into more dirty workspace. So got all that going on right now.
Oh, that's pretty neat. I need to actually do some cleaning in the dirty quote unquote area of my workshop because for like so long now, it's just been where stuff goes. Like I just throw stuff there when I don't want to deal with it. But now I got to clean it up and organize it because I have too many machines here already and I'm working on some more. So it's taking over pretty quickly, I think.
Yeah. That's my issue. So I'm one of those people where if I have to keep stopping and looking for things, like I'm just not going to do it. And my garage just had this really awful sort of closet system where everything could be tucked into corners. So you'd open up a door and there'd be a foot or two of dark space each side of every shelf. So things would just hide back there. And I felt like every time I needed to find something, I would have to dig and dig and dig. So I just basically never used my garage. And so I'm rebuilding it, building new workbenches and shelves and suspending stuff from the ceiling and all that kind of fun stuff. So hopefully I'll actually use it because I feel like it's just a nightmare right now.
Yeah, that's I feel you. I have a very tiny house. Oh, by the way, 600 square feet, 55 square meters for
Okay.
those of you across the pond. Here in Canada, although we're mainly metric, we have a hodgepodge of metric and imperial. So housing sizes are still in square feet for us. So 600 made
Interesting.
sense to me.
Okay.
Yeah. So my house, for example, if you count all the floors, is 1,200 square feet. So it is tiny.
Okay.
It's twice the
Interesting.
size of your
Yeah.
garage.
So it's easy to, it's easy to get overwhelmed. That's for sure. So, and
Absolutely.
speaking of that, I'm a big fan. If anybody's seen my workshop tour, I was supposed to do one in February. I do one every February, but I kind of slacked this year. But I've got these little shoebox style bins at the top, and I just counted it up before the podcast. And I've got 132 of those. And one of the things I've been kind of dreaming about for about the last year or two is to find a way to know where any bin is. I'm pretty good about putting them back in the same general direction, but I do find myself, looking for the one marked standard USB cables or whatever. So I've been kind of dreaming of different versions of things I could do to kind of organize that and make it a little smarter. And one of the projects I've been doing for work, can't talk too much about it, but I've been doing a lot with OpenCV and machine learning and machine vision and all that kind of stuff. And I've been playing around with. Have you seen? I know I'm going to pronounce it wrong. I should have looked up how to actually pronounce it, but Aruco codes, like ARUOCO or something like that. They kind of look like weird chunky QR codes.
Nope, nope, never. Let me look that up.
ARUOCO, I think. It's
We're
close.
we're doing this live, folks. No editing. ARAUCO. Does that make no? Nope.
ARUCO. ARUCO.
My God, this is.
Yeah, Aruco codes.
Oh, there we go.
It's
Okay,
like
yeah.
Aruco. Aruco, I think is basically the way you pronounce it.
They're like fiduciaries. They're like little. They're like very obvious to spot marks. We use similar marks on targets to aim crash assist cameras and lane watch assist cameras on cars.
Exactly. Yeah, Amazon used them for putting robots around their warehouse and stuff like that. But those things are really interesting. People know QR codes because they contain a ton of information in a really small area. And basically what they decided to do with these Aruco codes, and people are going to make fun of how I pronounce it, but whatever, they are designed to convey a very small amount of information, but to be extremely obvious. And so the way they work is, if you look at one of those things, you'll decide that, hey, this basically means a number. This symbol means number 1 through 250. And so what you do is you tell the system in advance the highest number it can be, so that you are extremely limiting the amount of work that the camera has to do. So the gist of it is, the reason why they use those codes is because they're extremely easy for the camera system to pick up. And so I'm building a project. I've got cameras strapped all over my ceiling right now because I need to track things based on those codes. And that's just been kind of fun. But what I was thinking about is that I could actually put one of those codes on each one of my bins and put a camera on the other side of the office. And basically, when I want to find out where a certain bin is, I just say its name, and I could either use a little 2 servo turret or some LED strips above it. So I could, like, if you picture that I have a whole row of 132 tubs, I could put a NeoPixel strip along the top of my office, and the camera finds the symbol for that box and then lights up the 6 LEDs above the box, or something like that. So I've been kind of playing around with the idea of doing something like that so that I could track where this thing is along the wall.
That makes a lot of sense. I think Sion, the unexpected maker, he has a sort of like a reel tracking system where he has part reels, like electronic part reels for
Yeah.
pick and place, and he actually made like racks, and he has an AI assistant know where every part is, like what's in every reel, and then he has to call out to it by voice, and it shines a neopixel on the reel he's looking for. So you're doing a little bit like that, except you don't have to set the position when you put things away, which is, I mean, I think would be a nightmare. So you could just put all your bins in, and as long as the code faces out, you'll be able to find it, which is pretty neat.
Yeah, I think it sounds like a lot of fun. And one of the things, my bins are stacked 3 tall, so it's super common that I pull out wherever it goes back. It's going to go back on top unless it's really heavy. So 99% of the time, that bin goes on the top. So they sort of rotate around. And then if I have 5 bins off the shelf, yeah, I get them back in the same general area. But I think it'd be kind of cool. I think it'd be neat or it'd be really cool to have a laser in the middle that would just shine like a green laser crosshair on the thing or something like that. I don't know if I'm going to get that advanced, but I can dream.
So let's as for all of these solutions, what is the minimum viable cost, do you think? What would be the cost of you know, just the minimum viable product where someone, let's say you could figure out the column but not the row. How much do you think a system like that would
Right.
cost someone?
Yeah, so actually, I mean, I think I'm doing it right now with a cheap. I'm not even using a 1080p. I've got a 720p webcam, So basically, on your existing computer, a USB webcam and a long USB cable, so you can get it up to the ceiling, is enough to probably give you. So my office, again, we'll go back in feet. My office is in two sections, and each section is about 15 feet wide. So I can probably get, I can probably get, let's just say 8 feet from the boxes. I think that would allow me to do maybe let's just say a 12-foot wide section. We'll just round it off. So I could do a 12-foot wide section of bins with one $10 USB camera.
Oh wow! So this is cheap, and I guess the software would be free, right? You'd be using
Right. The software is
OpenAI.
free. OpenCV is free. And yeah, and then you could basically, it's just a matter of if I want to, I would either use two servos that I have and a laser pointer or something like that, or I would run there'd be 30, $40 in cost to run a strip of neopixels the whole length. So I don't even think it'd be that expensive.
So that's actually very viable then, because I was thinking, you know, you probably need a Raspberry Pi, which is these days over $100. Then you'd probably need, a couple of the OVO cameras, and then you'd need all sorts of stuff like that. But actually, it's seeming more and more reasonable as you keep talking about it, which is pretty neat.
Yeah, my initial thoughts were to do something like I've been dreaming about this for years, but I originally thought, well, I could have a little battery operated rechargeable gizmo with an LED on it inside of every tub, where I would put something in there and then trigger it with a relay, with a remote, and it would make a tub itself light up. And I've thought of a bunch of different solutions for this, but they all involved just a lot more work. And the more I've been playing around with this stuff, I think that Aruco code might actually be the answer to just spot it with a camera.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. I went into the other direction. I labeled my boxes in plain English, and so my goal was that if I'm working on something, let's say away, right? Let's say I'm at a maker fair or something, and there's like an emergency where the thing doesn't work. I need to be able to call my wife at home and say, "Can you go in the basement, get box labeled blah blah blah, and bring it here to the maker fair." That was my thoughts when I was making my organization sort of scheme. And so far so good. It's working out well. I haven't had to use the catastrophe mode, but I'm thinking that's the way I'm going to go. But the issue is these boxes, they're like shoe boxes. That I think we use very similar bins, you and I.
Right.
And some of this stuff needs to now be broken down into smaller increments. So, for example, I have a box called Arduino Plus Plus, which is basically Arduinos, so basically microcontrollers, um, and then also sensors. And also, it's grown because I didn't really have a spot for potentiometers, so potentiometers are in there, and a few other things like that. And now that box is like overflowing, so I need more boxes, and I need to go a little bit more granular. But so far, so good. I don't have 130 boxes though. I think I have 30.
Well, that's what I would. So I'm with you on that. Part of the thing with the, and I might have mentioned this before, but with the USB, I have a limited amount of space that I can put these 130 boxes in. So these sort of tell me when it's time to stop collecting things. So, I need to decide: do I have once my box of USB cables gets full, then I stop collecting USB cables. But yeah, and then eventually, yeah, you do have to break them out and split them out, and it's an art for sure.
It's an art. um, I actually, so I was trying this year to go to like maker meetup type things, and one of the big ones very recently is going to be the Open Hardware Summit in New York. And New York is not all that far from me. I think it's a 6 or 8 hour drive, something like that. But once you're there, you kind of gotta stay there, and everything's very expensive. So I'm not ready, basically, to travel, especially here on my second COVID infection, which is great because basically up here it's probably the same in Florida, but up here basically nobody cares about COVID anymore, and nobody. No, I think I'm the only one who I see mask up on a regular basis. So basically, it's like COVID season all the freaking time. But so, anyways, I'm not ready to travel, so I actually bought tickets, virtual tickets to the Open Hardware Summit, and I'm going to be able to watch a couple of the podcast guests that I've had on do talks, which is pretty neat. Have you ever done the virtual ticket thing on any event like that?
I haven't. No, it actually seems like it would line up really well with my introvertedness.
Yeah, yeah. There we go.
My least favorite thing about conferences is the people.
Yeah, and you. It seems like a common thing when you're. I'm listening to Adam Savage, former MythBuster fame, talk about Comic Cons he goes to. It's pretty common to come home sick after a con,
Oh
right?
yeah,
Because everybody is just packed in a tight spot and whatever. So I bought tickets this year for the online thing. It's actually very cheap. It was about $25 American. So what's that, like $100 Canadian, whatever that
150.
is.
Yeah,
Yeah. And I'm excited to see what it's going to be all about. And I'm thinking of doing like a post show video to kind of sum it up. But
I
yeah,
like it.
this is something I would encourage people, because in person the tickets are over $200 American, and already you have to stay in New York, right? Like it's not cheap. So yeah, I would encourage people to check out the virtual tickets. So a little bit of a sort of call out for that.
Nice. So what project is closest to you proximity wise right now? Like when you look around your office, what do you see next to you?
So the closest thing is I've got 3D printed parts for a 3D printer upgrade, and I've showed it off on my live stream. I do live streams. I try to do them once a week. The one yesterday or 2 days ago, I guess, was no, yeah, 2 days ago was a bit rough because like I'm not feeling great. But I showed it off. But basically, it's to do a linear rail upgrade on a my Tronxy X5SA
Okay.
printer. Basically, it's a great.
Trapezoid printer?
It is a well, it's a Core XY type printer, but it has good bones, but it's still a Tronxy, so it has bad software, and I think the motion mechanism was a little bit of an afterthought. So I'm going to see if upgrading it to linear rails and a bit more rigidity is gonna help me make it more reliable, basically.
I've got a bit of a 3D printing question for you. So I have one of the things on my desk is I have the electronic screwdriver from Kai Wheats, and I love those things in general. I had one that I bought; it was an Amazon return. Love the thing, and it. What happened was in my garage, I was in the middle of doing something, and I turned it around and it rolled off my desk. And so one of the problems with most of the electronic screwdrivers on the market, and I don't understand why, they're all perfectly cylindrical, meaning that they can roll. And so what I did is I designed a little thing to basically look like a hex nut that would slide on the shaft of the screwdriver and just be something to stop it from rolling. But I tried twice and failed printing it because being so small, I mean it's like 11 millimeters, something like that. It it didn't want to stick to the bed even with a little brim. What kind of advice could you give me for making tiny parts stick to a bed?
Well, the big thing is you need the squish, and so typically, if you can't make things stick to the bed, it's probably that your nozzle is a bit far from the bed. So if you go into
Okay.
your baby stepping settings, baby stepping, for those that don't know, it's just to do little tiny adjustments while the printer prints. If you just increase the Z offset, it just when your printer starts printing, it'll start smushing it down a little bit harder. But you
Okay.
got to be careful because that also changes the Z height of your print. The more squish you have on your first layer, the shorter your first layer becomes. So if you have like precise needs for Z height, then that's one way to avoid it. The other thing is to print on a raft, and as annoying as printing on a raft is, um, it might be your solution here. So it prints basically
Okay.
like a boat, like a brim, right? But
Right.
then it prints
Right.
on top of that. So your brim or your raft will stick to the bed, and then your item will stick to the raft. And so those are two solutions you could try to get it to stick better.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not afraid of the raft. And one of the things I got, thanks to you, one of your mailbags, I got one of those little it's like a pipe rasp, I guess you'd call it. One of those little, it's like a aluminum tool with a little cutting edge that's made for deburring the inside of a pipe, and that thing is magical on 3D prints. I don't know if you use yours very much, but for whenever you do things like rafts or you have a little leftover jaggies from your what do they call it stuff? The what's the suspension for it?
The supports.
The yeah, the supports. Like whenever you need to clean that stuff up, that little rasp thing is amazing for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that thing is great. The deburring tool, right, with the little
Yeah,
spinny.
yeah,
Yeah, actually, I've been meaning to get one for a very long time. By the time I got that, but it's just it always slips my mind. But yeah, that's a go to for sure. Mine right now is actually worn out for the amount of use I put on it. The plastic handle, the latch is worn right out of it, so the bits come right out. So I need to. I'll probably end up buying a slightly higher quality one because the original intent of those tools was for machining. And so typically it's a carbide piece of metal inside and not just a
right,
mild steel like the ones we get from China. So I
right.
use it enough that I'll probably be upgrading at some point because, yes, I agree. That thing is freaking awesome.
Yeah, I think I got mine from Amazon. It's like a metal handle with, and I think it does have carbide on it, and it's amazing. Um, yeah, love that thing.
Yeah, that thing is very fancy. Actually, I kind of want to make a video of necessary tools to finish prints because I don't print on a very expensive 3D printer. Mind you, I've upgraded mine to hell and back at this point. My X3A, old faithful. Um, but sometimes it's very hard to get the support materials off because it doesn't. It depends on the material, depends on the temperature. Um, but because I print with whatever cheap stuff I find, and my printer isn't very fancy, and the firmware is very unfancy. Um, I think I'm going to make a video, but the thing is, you need to finish 3D prints. You need that little carbide scraper. You also need a little set of files, a little set of like
Hmm.
jeweler's files, because PLA is incredibly hard when you compare it to like your fingers, basically, right? And
Exactly.
and on top of that, I have a little screwdriver from a kit I got from China, but I have a tiny little flathead bit on it, and that thing works perfectly for like going inside little holes and prying out the support materials and stuff. So yeah, I feel like I really need to make a video on required tools for 3D printing, that and a scraper. I don't know
Yep.
why I waited so long to get a scraper, but that tool is a godsend as well.
Yep. I also have. I don't know if you have one of the ones that's the plastic scraper. It's use those orange plastic razor blades. Those things are great when you don't want to mar something. They're fantastic.
Yeah, I actually don't. So I have some from the automotive world because you typically use them to clean off silicone off of aluminum mating surfaces without marring the aluminum. However, I don't use them in 3D printing, and that's because I don't have a glass bed. I only have one
Mm,
glass bed, and that's on the X5SA. However, it's covered with painter's tape because the leveling on that bed is a complete nightmare. And the painter's tape makes it so that you can just use a regular scraper. So
okay.
yeah, those are a good idea. I do agree, but I haven't needed them personally. So that's that.
Yeah, so you said about making one of those videos. Those are the kind of slow burn videos that wind up doing well over time. I don't have a ton of views on it, but I did a 21 soldering tools that you must know about or something like that. And they kind of answer questions, and they're kind of things that people, when they're looking for gifts for people and stuff like that, your main channel viewers look at it and like, but overall it kind of answers a question. And so yeah, I would encourage you to make those videos because that'd be the type of thing that if I got somebody a 3D printer, I would go through a video like that and buy 3 or 4 of the things to send with it. Yeah, so I like that idea.
That's just because you're extra thoughtful, though.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I want to do one for bench power supply accessories too, because I've kind of come up with this whole set of little cables that I've made for my bench power supply, and it just makes using that thing so much easier. Like one thing I did is I made a banana jack to the standard, what is it, 2.5 millimeter banana, and then I have adapters, not banana, barrel, sorry, banana to barrel, and then I have those barrel adapters that basically adapt to all the other barrel adapters. So whenever I get some strange laptop, I have a cable that I just has a standard barrel jack. And if that's not it, then I have 1,000 other little adapters that I can get the exact right connector for my power supply and test it and stuff like that. So those kinds of things.
I wish makers would have just settled on one barrel jack size, because even in electronics, there's the 2.1 millimeter barrel jack and the 2.5 millimeter barrel jack. Why couldn't we just have one? I just want one barrel jack to rule them all, and that's it. Why?
And if you're going to differentiate them, then differentiate them based on voltage.
Oh,
So that
true.
12 is always 2.1 or whatever. Just because it's so bad. I wind up having to cut up so many old power bricks you know, because they don't have the right one on them.
I actually complained about this on one of my mailbag videos, but I needed to. So I was working on the X3A printer in the other room where I don't have my soldering iron, and my soldering iron at this point is buried below, like it's a soldering station. So the station portion of it is buried below an avalanche of stuff. So there's no way of getting it out from where it's sitting at the moment. So I was like, oh, I have a TS100 soldering iron, battery powered. All I'll do is I'll grab that TS100 and I'll bring it into the other room. I'll use one of my spare power supplies and I'll just solder with that. But no, instead of the I think it's 2.1 millimeter jacks that I have in stock, it uses a 2.5 millimeter jack. And it's like, what? Why? Why did you do this to me? Why?
Yep. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, and I think USB-C is going to be somewhat the answer to this stuff in the future, but it's not extremely maker friendly to replace those jacks and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's better than what we have, but it still has its annoyances.
Yeah, stupid USB. Um, I usually wait till the end of the episode to do some Q&As, but I figured we're going to see how this is for audience retention. So I asked on Twitter and on YouTube for some questions to answer, and I figure instead of it being directed to me, we can both give our takes on it, if that's all right with you.
And I got a bunch here too, so
Oh, neat.
go ahead.
Just a quick interruption to talk about this episode's sponsor, PCBWay. PCBWay has been a long-term sponsor of the channel, and I think they're a good match for my channel because they provide quality PCBs for a reasonable price. You can get boards manufactured up to 100 mils by 100 mils for just $5, including shipping to Canada, $15 US, including shipping to USA, $12 US, which is incredibly cheap for professionally manufactured PCBs. I can personally attest to the quality of these PCBs, and so if you want a circuit immortalized forever, check out PCBWay.com with the link in the description. Now back to the conversation. All right, so the first one is from Marius Hare. I forgot how to pronounce your name. I'm sorry, Marius, but that's from Twitter. He says, if electricity comes from electrons, does morality come from morons? And I'll say no. Morons bring society far more things, and I'd rather not talk about it.
Yeah, exactly. I would say just the opposite.
Just the opposite. Great. All right. Here is one from my wife at Verawak on Twitter. If you could start another YouTube channel that you can manage, so you hire the talent, the crew, and everything, what would it be? Actually, I'd like to hear your input on this first.
So this is one of my big struggles. I lack time, but I have this extreme like enjoyment of both electronics, maker electronics, and vintage stuff. And the two on my channel just does not they just don't play very well together. So I would love to be able to spawn off into something other more vintage that I can kind of play with. I mean that's a no brainer for me.
Okay, like a vintagey channel. Nice.
Yeah. How about you?
I think I would want to do a Top Gear type automotive
Ooh,
channel, because there are a few right now, like Auto Alex Cars is one of them, which is formerly of Full Throttle. I don't remember what the original channel was. And there's another one, which is, I think it's Tavarish. But I feel like um, the Tavares channel goes more big into what they do, but they're lacking that little bit of sort of personality, like Top Gear had. Top Gear had a magic thing,
yeah,
and I think
yeah.
Otto Alex, because he's now out on his own, he has the personality, but I feel like he doesn't have the big sort of adventures that Tavares has. So I would like something kind of in the middle there, where I would find some personalities that jive very well together. Preferably if it jives with me, because I'd love to be on one of those shows. And then we do the whole Top Gear thing: buy something for under $1,000, and climb the Rocky Mountains with it or something like that. That would be
I,
my dream.
I love it. Yeah, I love it. I have a lot of the two things people always say that my personality doesn't really come through on my YouTube channel. Like people who hang out with me on the regular don't feel like it comes through on my channel. Then anybody who knows me when I was in my 20s would say that, I mean, if YouTube was around, like I probably would have made a killing at YouTube back then when I had the just more time and less commitments and stuff like that. I probably would have loved it back in the day.
You just need to make a second channel where you forget about the theme of your channel and you just do things like stuff like a vlog of your bike adventures, for example, would be pretty awesome. Next one up here is from uh, Gregador the Only on Twitter. What are some of the most embarrassing moments from your life? And I can start with this one. Um, so imagine you're I guess a newish podcaster trying to make a good product for people to listen to, and then you finally score a big YouTuber like Big Clive to come on, and you're so nervous that you comment on his accent at the very second you start the frickin' podcast and put him off for the first 5 minutes. I still think about it and cringe about that. I don't know why I said that. I was so nervous. Well, there we go. That's one of my most embarrassing moments. How about you?
I was I was I was at a homeless shelter and I was talking to somebody and I was talking to somebody and I was quoting somebody with a bunch of authority. And it's really funny because I like literally never use this expression ever, but I was in the middle of talking to the guy and I was like, and that's just not some bum off the street saying that. Just
Oh
and there were like a
no.
whole bunch of people around and everyone just kind of looked at me. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna get killed.
Oh no. I have secondhand embarrassment for you.
And that is one of the reasons, like I've always been very quick with stuff like that, just throwing stuff out there like that. And that's one of the reasons why I don't do live streams, because you just can't take it back. And I constantly just say random things like that that I shouldn't. So
Do you listen to the WAN show, the Linus Tech Tips podcast?
I don't. I see
Okay.
bits and pieces of it, but yeah.
So on the last one, yeah, on the last one, Linus was explaining how back in the day, in the early 2000s and slightly before, things were more acceptable to say back then than they are now. And he said, what he said, and I quote, is that he's dropped his fair share of the hard R's because it was normal back then. And his co-host Luke is like, what? And he's like, yeah, it was just normal. And then he's like, whoa, 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 whoa. What are you talking about? And he says the hard R, the one that is mental disability. And he's like, whoa, no, that is not what the hard R means. And he's like, the hard R is finishing a very racist word in a hard R. And he's like, oh, no, no, that's not what I meant. And so he almost ruined his freaking career live. Crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, yeah, and obviously I'm torn. Like I would hate to see any like real repercussions come from him, over a misunderstanding like that. But it's yeah, we live in that's just a fact. Like you can lament it all you want, but that is a fact. Like we are at any time one word for being canceled, and that's the thing too. Like I try to keep it in perspective. YouTube is a bit of an outlet for me. But it's not more important than my family or my business or any of those other things. So and my thing is to push the envelope. Like the videos that I don't put out, like I have so many things that I just think would be hilarious, but I just don't do it because it's not worth getting canceled. I was gonna fake, I could say this because it's kind of funny. I was gonna fake a video, and obviously I would not do this, so I'm gonna go ahead and give a disclaimer. But I was gonna do a video like an April Fool's type thing where I talk about um going down the cat toys aisle at Walmart and just showing how much plastic and how much, non-biodegradable materials were in all these toys, and who knows, they're all coming in from China and all that kind of stuff. Who knows what's in these things. So I was going to say that I wanted to make biodegradable cat toys, and I was going to basically build a camouflage tent for my cat outside with a birdhouse so the cat could hide until the birds came down to until the birds came down to eat, so that the cat would have biodegradable cat toys. But cats are known for killing like billions and billions of birds, so lots of people get upset about that kind of thing. So, but again, like I wouldn't really do it. I wouldn't really kill a bird for a YouTube video and all that kind of stuff. But it's just not worth, like, it's not worth it for the joke, essentially.
No. And people also associate things that you may not mean, right? Things that you say and may not mean with your true character, right? There's a difference
Right.
between saying something by accident and actually thinking
Right.
about it, right? Like I am like I try to make it very clear that I'm a pretty strongly feminist. I am, pro acceptance on whatever. It's actually kind of silly to me that that people care what's going on in other people's pants. Um, but if I were to say something like a single word by accident on a live stream, that's not how I think. It's just
Right.
something that comes out. So that's a thing. But that's why I hope that actions speak louder than words, and you know,
Right.
hopefully there's enough evidence online of how I really think that one mistake won't put me in the dumps. Who knows?
Yeah. I made a video a couple years ago about a joke device to turn your TV on and off so you could quote unquote trick your wife into allowing you to buy a new TV right before the Super Bowl. And there were people in the comments who legitimately thought that I would manipulate my wife or that my wife would even care if I wanted to go out and buy a new TV. That's just, it's part of how we live now. And that's okay. Like it is what it is, but it's you got to be careful.
Yeah, that's projection. That's definitely projection. Some people think that
Yeah.
that's the quote unquote stereotypical wife decides everything and she's so mean and not supportive. Um, I'm thinking if you have a wife like that, you probably picked wrong. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
My
My
wife's
wife
like
is
the
a
most.
rock star. That's funny. Go ahead. You talk about
Yeah,
your wife, then I'll talk about my wife.
yeah. I was about to say my wife is the most awesome person I met. I think it's important to be in a relationship with your best friend and not someone who you think
Absolutely.
has
Yeah, we're out
whatever.
there. I mean, we're out there putting a new floor in this laundry room, and my wife will make every single one of the cuts, and she's ridiculous. Like she's hardworking and crazy talented, and does all the things that I do. It's impressive, really is.
Oh, I was outside cutting blocks to make a little shelf here in the basement, and my wife came and joined me, and I was like, "Hey, do you want to sand these pieces?" Because she doesn't get a lot of chance to play with woodworking stuff. And she's like, "Absolutely." She starts sanding it, and some old man, because this thing is running on my front lawn, so it's pretty loud. So so some old man like shouts something. So I just go up to him on the sidewalk and I'm like, "What?" And he's like, "Oh, are you teaching her how to use the tools?" I was like, "No, she's perfectly capable. Thanks for nothing." Right? Like it sucks for women, right?
It does. It really does. So I'm gonna throw in a couple of kind of rapid fire that we can kind of go over. We can go back to your other questions, but all
Hey
right,
there.
let's go for this. Comedy or horror?
Oh, comedy. No, they both suck. Comedy though. How about
I'm
you?
comedy, definitely. I'm
Comedy,
comedy,
yeah.
definitely. Movies or TV shows?
TV shows. I think long form narratives are a lot better than short form ones.
I agree. I've almost completely stopped watching movies. I watch them occasionally, but not a ton.
Have you
Uh,
watched The Last of Us, the TV series?
haven't watched that. I just finished Clarkson's Farm, season 2, which I've been enjoying. But yeah, I haven't watched The Last of Us. Is it good?
It's very good. It's awesome. So actually, I
I'll have to
envy
check
you
that
because
out.
I watched it week over week, and I would much rather watch it in a binge watching session.
Okay. Well, I'm a free agent now for new shows, so that's good. I'll do it. Waffles or pancakes?
Waffles. Come
Me
on,
too.
that's not even a question.
My wife loves pancakes, but I'm waffles. A lot more flavor, a lot more options there.
Kim,
All right,
you have the wrong
good.
opinion.
Well, it's done, and she's not a very granola type person, but she's gone gluten free for health issues, and it's done a lot of it's done a ton of good for her, honestly. And but gluten free pancakes seem to be a lot more accessible too, so that's part of it. Pizza
But
or pasta?
oh, pizza. I can live on
On
pizza.
pizza also. Yeah, me too. Exactly. All right, couple more here. Onion rings or fries?
Oh, dip. Oh, that depends. Flavored fries are better than onion rings, but onion rings are better than unflavored fries.
Yeah. I think the average onion ring is probably a little bit better than the average French fry. But yeah, killer fries are killer fries. I think probably the best fries are probably better than the best onion rings.
Agreed.
Um,
I totally agree. If you're somewhere where the fries are mid at best, get the onion rings. And if you're somewhere where the fries are actually very good, I've been feeling Popeye's fries lately, the Cajun fries. So fries are better than onion rings in that case.
all right, last question. If you were in a high speed chase, what song would you want blaring on the radio?
Oh, geez, high speed chase blaring on the radio. I don't know. How about Bat Out of Hell? Is that Meatloaf?
Okay. All right. I like it. I like it. I kind of envision myself. I'm not bad on a track. I kind of envision one of the like classical ballet things. Like I really like the juxtaposition of the car sliding around with just very classical calming music as I'm flying around evading the police.
Oh,
So
like a slow motion
that's where
scene
I'd go.
almost.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. The
Maybe
poetic.
something
All right,
like
one
a
last one.
yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, my bad, my bad. Actually, two last ones because they're really important. Um, wings or ribs?
Wings by far, especially
Yeah.
breaded and fried. Those that's my jam.
Yep. Really good ribs, I think, are better than really good rings or wings, but I think on general wings are better. I had one more on here. All right, we'll just do pudding or Jello.
Oh, pudding by far. Something
Pudding.
like a
Me too.
good butterscotch pudding. That's the
Yep,
key.
I'm with you.
Sweet. Hey,
All right,
speaking of puddings, now you got me into food. You're going to a fancy ice cream place. What's your favorite fancy ice cream flavor?
That's what you mean by I'm gonna always go for the most chocolate peanut butter thing on the spectrum.
Okay,
If I'm getting quality, I'm chocolate peanut butter. Give me any combination of that. I would lean toward dark chocolate, if it's an option, but chocolate and peanut butter is my jam. How about
I
you?
go somewhere around like a high quality milk chocolate. And I don't like my chocolate dark, but it needs to have caramel swirled in there. So chocolate and caramel to me is a great
Okay,
combination for ice cream.
I like it. Yeah, it's good. Now,
All
so
right,
would you add nuts to something like that? Would that have like, because for me, if I go caramel, I kind of want something like almonds or cashews to offset that a little bit.
no nuts. I am not actually a fan of nuts. I used to be when I was younger, but now I find like they just add some sort of dryness to the
Okay.
mix that I'm not appreciating. So yeah,
Okay.
no nuts for me.
I'd say I like pretty much all nuts except for walnuts. Don't like walnuts, but everything else is good.
You get along well with my wife. She's a nut aficionado. She likes cashews would be her favorite, and then
Yep.
probably macadamia nuts and pralines.
Yep. I'm down that range. I like pistachios too. That's another good one. So
I cannot have pistachios anymore ever since there's a Reddit post showing that there's like an invasive bug.
yeah,
Have you seen
yeah,
those? Yeah.
yeah.
So
I
I won't
have.
go any further.
That's great.
All right. Let's finish Gregador's questions. He asks, have you ever been in a car wreck? And if so, how bad? Also, how many if there's more than one? I have been in one car wreck. My long suffering 1995 Honda Civic back in the day. I dropped off my wife at a theater thing in the west end of town, took the highway back. I was behind this box van, like a big delivery van, and I may have been a bit too close, but I was probably close to 2 seconds behind him. But then all of a sudden he swerves out of the lane in front of me, go to the right, and when he swerved, all I could see was a line of stopped traffic in front of him. So I couldn't see
Mm.
past him because it's a van. But when he swerved, I hit the brakes and plowed right into this Mazda. So I was completely unharmed, but the front of my car had crushed like an accordion. The police on site took the lady's statement, and she said she saw everything, and she said it wasn't my fault. I explained to the police officer, and he said, "Yep, it's not your fault." So I didn't get a ticket, I didn't get charged or anything. Usually, when you rear end someone on the highway, it's your fault. So I called the insurance, and the insurance said, "Yep, it's your fault. The police don't decide; we do." So I haven't one at fault
Wow.
back in
Wow.
2010, I think. How about
So
you?
Florida is actually a no fault state where they've just decided that we're not even going to try to figure out who's at fault in the accidents. So I mean, your insurance can go up based on the number of them you have, but they don't really do a whole lot of fault unless you get into civil suits, which is kind of, I don't love it, but it kind of makes sense. So I actually had two near misses that are way more interesting than the accident. But we were on our way to. My wife was driving, and we were on our way up to the Arctic Circle, and not very far from Fairbanks, Alaska. And we just hit some black ice and just went straight into one of those barricades in the middle. And it was coming around a curve. And the scariest thing about it, there wasn't a shoulder on the side that we hit, and my wife's glasses flew off. And so I mean, you're on a snowy road where my mind is doing the math that hey, if we slid, the people behind us could. So basically, like I got my wife like over the wall as fast as I could, but her glasses flew off and she couldn't see, and so I had to jump in and get the car was drivable, so I had to get it like going back the right direction before we got plowed into. So it wasn't a bad accident, but that was pretty scary. In Alaska, everything is kind of multiplied. I'll go pretty quick, but I'll tell you two other ones. I had the worst day of my life. If you got a minute, I'll give you the story. But essentially, somebody donated a boat to the camp that I worked at, and I got down there, and I didn't have a whole lot of time that day, and it wound up taking forever to get all the paperwork done. Then I go to actually get the boat itself, and it was chained to a tree, and the guy couldn't find the keys. Everything in Alaska is forever away, so I had to drive basically an hour round trip to go get a battery operated grinder from Home Depot so I could cut the chains and get it on there. And by that time, the guy who gave me the boat had left. So I get the boat all hooked up to the trailer, and it's starting to get dark. It gets dark at 2 o'clock in the afternoon there, and the trailer lights didn't work. And so then all of a sudden I have to get it to an auto parts store. I'm laying on the ground in the snow in Alaska, wiring up temporary lights so I can get this boat 2 hours back up to where the camp is. We're up a mountain. And so, time's passing. It's pitch black. And I'm driving through the mountains of Alaska, and I come down a hill, and all of a sudden the Suburban that I was driving and the truck just slide sideways down the mountain. And as I'm sideways down the mountain, looking basically up the mountain out of my passenger or my driver window, there's a Coca-Cola semi um, that's sliding the other way. So we're essentially window to window. His driver's side is facing mine. We're both sliding sideways down this mountain. And I get control of mine, and as we start to get down to the bottom of the hill, and then we're immediately going back uphill, so you got to hit it. So I immediately just jam it and go uphill, and he gets uphill, and there's really nowhere to stop. And I couldn't exactly tell what happened to him, so I wind up pulling in the only gas station on this road about 10 minutes later, and the Coke truck pulls in right behind me and is like, "Hey, you here to change your shorts?" And I was too, because I mean, if he hit me, we were going off the side of the mountain together. I mean, there's just no ifs, ands, buts about it. There's no guardrails, like you're going off. And so that was scary as frick. And then one other
Wow.
time I was in college, and yeah, that was really really scary. Oh, I might as well just finish telling you the rest of the story. So then I get up there, and I get home. It's like 8:30 at night. I left it real early in the morning. I get up there, and the power had gone out. And so that's a big deal in Alaska. Like, you cannot have these buildings freeze. We have some oil heat and gas heat and some things, but you just can't let 100 buildings freeze. So it's this mad dash to get generators everywhere we can get them. And so I pull in with this boat, and all of a sudden I have to join this mad dash to get a whole bunch of generators to a whole bunch of crucial places. And I get the one to my house, and it will not start, and I'm out there and it's snowing, and I'm like trying to get this generator cranked for like half an hour, and I get the generator cranked and the power comes back on. And it was just like that entire day, it was just like, you know, bad thing after bad thing from like beginning to end, but I made it home. The other one's just kind of a little funnier is I when you're in college, you do dumb things, not paying attention. I was in South Carolina at college and driving just down one of those 55-mile-an-hour back roads. And I look up, and there's an intersection, and everybody is stopped. Just everybody is stopped. And like, there's no hitting the brakes. Like, so I yanked the wheel to the right, and there's a gas station there. And so I'm sliding my Ford Escort sideways into this gas station. Like, I go from 55 miles an hour, yank the wheel to the right, slide sideways, and I landed exactly next to a gas pump. And so I just got out and started pumping gas.
Wow.
Just like, I had no excuse for doing it. And so, it took like $1 worth of gas, and then, like, I calmed down and got back on the road, but it was insane.
Craziness. So you went through quite a bit of stuff. I guess you're a little bit older than me, but you're not that much older.
I'm
Maybe you just take
46.
more risks. Yeah, 46. Okay, you're 11 years older. So,
Yeah. I take a lot of risks. I travel a lot of dumb places. I do a lot of dumb things. So
I mean, fair enough.
I'm not really an adrenaline junkie. Like, I'm not a jump out of plane, bungee jumping kind of person, though.
Yeah, I feel like I like the idea of bungee jumping, but I don't know if I'd ever go through with it. That's a bit much. That's a big commitment. You have to sit there in the plane as you go up, thinking about whatever the heck's going on. Ugh.
Yeah, I'm definitely a risk reward kind of person. So the risk is a little high for me there.
So let's get to a couple more of these Q&As. Kyle Alred from the YouTube comments says, "Can you say the alphabet backwards without help?" Nope, not a chance.
No, not a chance.
Yeah, me neither. When I look at those YouTube, the police stops for the roadside sobriety tests, I haven't even touched alcohol in like 2 years, maybe 3 years at this point, and I don't think I could pass any of those sobriety tests. So no
No.
idea.
Yeah. I don't have great balance to begin with. I'm not very good at the backwards thing. Yeah, they turn me in immediately.
How much, if any, has your adventure in electronics helped you with understanding the chips in vehicles? Well, 100% it's helped me with cars. Actually, that's the reason I learned electronics in the first place, is that the manufacturers don't give you enough information about what's going on in control modules. So I took it upon myself to learn. How about you? It must help to know a little bit about electronics.
Yeah, definitely. It helps with the diagnostics, and yeah, just I think electronics, like coding, is problem solving and breaking big problems down into small problems. And so, yeah, whether it's a module in a car or a tail light not working or something like that, like, it gives you the skills to break things down like that. So it's definitely helped a lot.
Here's one
And
that's
the
really,
tools, like, just the fact that we get those tools, like, that's really been helpful.
oh, absolutely. Because, yeah, an automotive scan tool will do things similar to like multimeters and oscilloscopes, but they'll do things through a translation layer where if you just know how to use the multimeter and the oscilloscope, you don't really need a scan tool.
Right.
Here's one that's very relevant. Should we, Thomas W. asks, should we keep hoarding components because sooner or later China will become too expensive for us, or will cheap supplies via Ali keep coming? Wow. I would say we're already at the point where cheap components are not nearly as cheap as they used to be. And shipping is absolutely insane still, even though it's dropped a whole bunch. So I think eventually we're going to see the end of cheap components from China, especially with a few political things that are going on with the U.S. Entering into a silicon arms race with China. So yeah, I think the end of cheap components is nigh. What do you think?
Yeah. Yeah, I think the golden age is basically over. And even the stuff that we're getting cheap is not it's not as cheap as it used to be, and like the fakes are unbelievable. I just haven't had time to finish my quote unquote investigation, but I mean I've probably ordered 40 or 50 chips and gotten fake versions or rebadged versions. I just did an EEPROM yesterday. I'm like, why can't I program this EEPROM? And I looked it up, and it was just they took the time to change the brand. So they changed some no name one and put an ST label on it, laser marked one on there. Um, and again, like there was no problem with the EEPROM. They just changed the brand to maybe squeeze another penny or two out of there, and it caused me all kinds of troubles. So it's if you value your time. So whenever I have to deal with my clients' money, I have to buy from DigiKey and Adafruit, and even Adafruit's been kind of junk lately. But it's the cheap usable things are going away quick.
Careful about summoning Adafruit fanboys into here. So,
Well,
I mean,
I want to. Okay, I'll go ahead and I'll toss out what I've been dealing with. So what I've been dealing with is that there was a time that they basically created a lot of the modules and things that they sold. But in my last project, I used the dot stars. I think we talked about that in the last podcast. Well, they've basically started rebranding various, and maybe it's a supply chain issue that they can't get as many as they want, but because they're rebranding other people's dot stars as their own, sometimes the wires are in different orders, you get different behaviors and all that kind of stuff, and I used to buy from them to avoid that kind of stuff, and now it's just not the case.
gotcha. Yeah, I'm not even at that level yet where I'm buying from Adafruit in a regular basis. I just don't have the I don't have the sort of like project momentum where you need accurately sourced things, and so I'm still just buying stuff cheap from AliExpress, basically. So it is what it is.
I do it
Um,
too still. I mean, and I'll take my chances.
yeah, sometimes, but I guess for you, it's a little bit different because some of the projects you do are like serious paid jobs from with deadlines and stuff. And at that case, I mean, you would you would probably rather spend $20 more on a component that you know where it came from than have to
Right.
spend 100 hours of labor trying to make it work.
Yeah, for paid projects, my clients, the components are generally the cheap part of the project, so they're fine buying that kind of stuff. Like normally for me, I would buy one of those cheap little, like I just had to order an actual Intel NUC, one of those little mini computers. Where normally I would just use whatever Raspberry Pi or cheap computer I had laying around, but they're willing to pay for the real thing. But for me, there's two times I won't do it. One is if I'm doing for somebody else and they're paying for it, then I have to buy from DigiKey and Quality Components. The second one that I've learned my lesson on is anytime I build something like a card that has 15 or 20 chips on it, which is pretty common in the vintage space, I have to order that stuff from DigiKey too, because it's not just, like I said, AliExpress, they rebranded some of the parts. So you may get a chip that's close and works in 95% of the circumstances, but when you start having 10 of them working together, they don't do the same thing. So I've just learned, like, I've wasted so much time trying to get a card that has 10 or 15 chips using all AliExpress parts because they're usually not exactly what they say they are, even though it's perfectly fine if you're just doing like a little shift register on a breadboard.
Yeah, it's one of those things with stacking tolerances, right? When when students ask me things like, well, if this car is, well, here, how about this? They ask me, the safety limit on tire treads here in Ontario is 1.6 millimeters. If you have less than 1.6 millimeter of tire tread left, the car is unsafe to drive, as per the law. So the students ask me, on a dry road, sunny day, does that actually matter? The 1.6 millimeters of tread? Can you go down to 1.5, 1.4? And I say the issue is edge cases. And so if you're just driving on a flat, dry road, warm day, sunny day, 1.6 millimeters and 1.4 millimeters are like the same. But the moment you get to a curve in the road and there's a little bit of sand kicked up from, like, let's say from the ditch, in that case, your 1.4 is going to send you careening off the side of the road or into oncoming traffic. And so laws like the treadwear limits are really to have a calculated level of safety. And yes, your car might be fine, but the thing is, it might not. And is that risk acceptable for other people on the road other than you? And I think that's what's happening with your AliExpress chips, is they're probably fine, right? But in edge cases, they're not. And when you add 20 of them, then those you get like a tolerance stack up where things go wrong very quickly. Is that about
Yeah.
accurate?
Yeah, and it's not, I mean, it's just not worth it spending hours and hours and hours debugging it. It just takes away all the fun of the project.
And labor ain't cheap. At least it shouldn't be cheap. In your case, you're
Yeah.
pretty experienced in this kind of stuff.
Yeah, and when I do AliExpress stuff, I have to socket it, which costs more money because I know there's a decent chance I'm going to have to pull it out and change it. So it just the savings just go away. You just start adding sockets.
Yeah, so then you just order from DigiKey, and then you know you have to eat it on shipping and on accurate sourcing, especially here in Canada. Shipping from like Mouse or DigiKey sucks, costs a fortune.
Yeah, it's not cheaper. I've never gotten free shipping from them, or at least not recently, but it's yeah, it's not cheap and it's not fast, or anything. It's okay, but it's not very fast. Not like the Amazon or anything.
I think I might make a video asking people to spend $100 worth of my money on Mouser, because I won a contest probably 2-3 years ago now, where I have $100 credit on I'm pretty sure it's on Mouser's website, but I just never know what to buy, because everything that I would want that's above $100, it feels like the $100 isn't enough of a discount for it, and everything that I want under $100, it feels like you're paying 10x the price of what I would usually buy. So yeah, maybe I'll make a video and have people suggest what to buy, and whoever gets the whoever makes me a shopping cart with the most useful stuff for $100. I don't know, maybe I'll send them a sticker or something.
I like that. I like that. I think you can actually share Mauser shopping carts too, so they could actually add it to their cart and share it.
Oh, there we go. Neat. So yeah, maybe I'll set that up. Make myself a note.
Sounds
All right.
fun.
Last question on the YouTube from Space Wolf Jr. You're going to have to answer this because I have no idea. Why are some cats bigger than other cats? Could it be love?
Well, my cat has gotten a lot bigger since I've gotten her, so she's very well loved, I think. Yeah. So that's my guess. You don't
I'm
like
definitely
cats at
not.
all, do you?
I hate cats. And actually, you know what? That's not fair. I don't hate cats. I dislike most cat owners.
Yeah.
If you let your cat roam outside, then shame on you, because in my area, coyotes eat them. They get hit by cars, and the ones that don't get hit by cars or eaten by coyotes, they murder all the squirrels and all the songbirds. And so when we moved in here, we used to feed the birds, but basically it just made the bird feeder was more of a cat feeder than anything else. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, so you get my video idea.
my neighbors, in fact, I believe it's illegal, but when their cats murder a bird that's been tagged, they just destroy the tag and bury the bird. So
Well,
yeah,
yeah.
so
Yeah,
that's
I,
the
I
issue.
brought our cat inside. Our cat stays inside, but over the years, the last 5 years I've lived here, I fed a bunch of the stray cats that just come up to my door and stuff, and we have a trap, neuter, and release program. So basically, they'll give them their rabies shots, they'll neuter them, they'll give them all their shots, and then they cut the tip of their ear off so that you know that they've been treated. And they basically say that's really healthy for the cat population, um, and for basically all the populations. But I mean, I would say on average, the street cats last maybe a year, year and a half before they're. I mean, they could be adopted. It'd be nice to think that they got adopted by a family, but I think like they're getting hit and stuff like that. So, yeah, my cat being inside may be fat, but she's happy.
Are there are the cats feeding the alligators? Is that something that happens?
Yeah, that definitely does happen. Probably more likely we have hawks. Pythons are starting to make their way up from South Florida. There's a lot of random things that kill cats around here. We have coyotes also.
Yeah, I wish. So the issue with me is that all the neighbors. I live in a fairly densely housed area, but all the neighbors have cats, and they're all outdoor cats, and they're always in
Yeah.
my backyard, either hunting or pooping in my garden. And you know, it's a weird thing where, like, let's say I were to have a dog, right, which is on my radar, but at the moment, the wife and I are barely responsible enough for ourselves. Um, if the dog is in my fenced yard and it fights with a neighbor's cat and it gets all scratched up, then, like, let's say it gets an eye poked out, then you can't even go after the neighbors because there are so many cats. You don't even know which one it fought with. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's this thing where we've asked them to keep their cats out of our yard, but the cats, they honestly jump the height of the fence. They jump over the fence, and so there's no way to stop them coming in. So I'm in
Yeah, I'll
this
have
weird
cats on my roof
situation.
occasionally.
Yeah, exactly. So it's this weird situation where they say, well, we do our best, but what can you really do to stop a cat being in your yard, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, not much. And I'll say this, like a good cat, like or some cats are great and some cats are horrific. Um and so the like I have a very good cat. It's quiet, it doesn't leaves me alone, like it just kind of sits around here, it's peaceful. But there are some that are just holy terrors also.
yeah, I mean, they have personalities. They're
Yeah.
regular animals. And honestly, I don't have problems with the cats because the cats should just be indoors, and then they would be perfect companions. I mean, my sister had a cat for the longest time, not while I lived with her, but I mean, they're fine animals. They just yeah, they murder all the birds and the squirrels and stuff. Sad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, other than that, we went through quite a bit of stuff. There is something I do want to touch on. Have you watched the video of Dianna, Physics Girl?
I have. That's scary.
Yeah, absolutely terrifying. So, personally, I've had long COVID for 2 years. Um, and my long COVID, I find, is a little bit debilitating when I have basically, I'm pretty sure I'm undiagnosed because mental health services suck in Canada, but I'm pretty sure I have some sort of generalized anxiety disorder. And when I have my anxious times, since I had COVID the first time in 2021, um, December 2021, a while ago, anyways, um, it it was also it came with breathing problems. I felt like I was out of breath and my heart rate was like through the roof all the time. And so I've had long COVID myself. And Diana, Physics Girl, when she got COVID, she also got long COVID. However, she got a much worse version of it where she's chronically fatigued, where she doesn't even have enough energy to interact with people. Like social interaction is impossible for her, even like reading text messages. So she's been bedridden in and out. And she's now back in the hospital and hoping to get treatment. So I will link the video, basically made by Simone Yach, but uploaded to Physics Girl's channel. And I do recommend that everyone listening to this goes and watch the video. Physics Girl is an important creator on YouTube. She does fantastic work in terms of science communication. And if someone knows how to help, then I would suggest you reach out. But I felt it was really important to speak out about it, especially because most people, sorry, as I'm clamoring to try not to cough here, most people assume that COVID is a non-issue these days, which is not true for everyone. So yeah, I would recommend you guys go watch that. And I shared it with a few of the creators that I know. So Another Maker is one of them. And yeah, hopefully, at least if you guys wouldn't mind going there, saying some words of support, and maybe sharing the video around, that'd be greatly appreciated.
Yeah, that's so scary. I mean, you think about and again, I have no idea about her medical conditions and stuff like that, but I mean, by all appearances, I mean, she's been to the polls and things like that. She's young, healthy, otherwise, and so for something like this to take down somebody who seemed energetic and healthy, like it's definitely scary.
Yeah, she's not old. She's I don't know her exact age, but she's probably closer to my age than yours. Um, and so this whole thing of, well, there's a very low death rate and therefore COVID is not a problem, I think is such problematic thinking. I mean, I caught my infection from my students. They just came into school sick. And even though I was wearing my mask, they didn't wear any. And so a mask, if I have to repeat this by this point, it's pretty sad, but a mask protects more others than yourself. And so, yeah, I got it from my students, and they gave it to each other. And I mean, it's just it's horrible.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. And I mean, I've lost relatives from it. And the long thing, it's really difficult to see people that you love, going through this stuff long term.
Dianna is younger than me. She was born in 1989. So she is
Wow.
34 and I'm 35. So yeah. Just one thing out there, if you guys, maybe can be a little bit more considerate when you're sick, maybe stay home, wear a mask, and we're gonna hopefully end this kind of stuff. But yeah, let's just end this on a positive note, because I hate going out on a negative note. Um, what's the next couple months look like for you? I know that you have a couple projects planned, but are we going to see those on YouTube?
I wouldn't call myself retired from YouTube. I'm still doing YouTube videos occasionally, doing some stuff, the PCB stuff and the mailbag videos and things like that. It's been pretty tough. I'm pretty loaded down on that kind of stuff. I'm playing with something called the Nabu, which is pretty cool, and I don't probably don't have time to give the whole story, but essentially a the cable company in Ottawa, Canada, was renting these pretty much dumb terminal computers that actually had really crazy good specs inside, that they would rent them on a weekly or monthly basis to the cable customers. And they weren't super popular, but back in the day, it was a really cool way for people to get online, and they were crazy fast. And we're talking like 1983, 84, 85. Well, recently somebody found a giant trove of these things new in box in a warehouse, and they've been going up on eBay for $80 a piece. And it's just an amazing story of how the community has gotten these cheap computers, basically reverse engineered all the stuff the cable company was doing, and then expanded that 100 times over to do really cool stuff on top of that. And so there's these old computers they look really cool, and people are just expanding and doing all kinds of fun stuff with those. So I've jumped on that movement. I don't know that I might make one video kind of summarizing the whole thing, but I've been doing that, been fixing some old computers and kind of tinkering. Nothing major on the horizon. Just trying to hold on through the middle of the year. I've got a couple of big product launches I'm taking care of, so hanging on for dear life.
That's good. That's good. I'm trying to. I basically filmed a whole bunch of mailbag videos and edited a whole bunch of mailbag videos. So my Patreon patrons have access to about five, I think, five of them right now, and I've got two more to edit because over time stuff has just been accumulating here. So I'm going to do that. But the thing is, I do have in my head, there was a couple negative comments of people saying, why am I even subscribed to this basically mailbag channel? And so I don't want to just do mailbags. So I do have a couple of rapid fire videos that I have ideas for, and I'm going to be shooting those in the next couple of weeks. So if you are a Patreon patron or a channel member, you're going to get early access to those fairly shortly. I want to kind of space out the mailbag videos a little bit. So look up for that. Just a couple of teardowns, couple of messing around, and I still need to work on my basically my commitment to do sort of like more in-depth tutorial-y type videos with web articles. Still need to work on that. It's just with the sickness and with the college work, I'm a little bit behind, but I will get it done. And another maker will have to buy me a pizza at the end of the year. I swear it.
All right, all right. And I'm thinking about just following up on our last thing real quick. I'm thinking about transitioning some of the stuff. I really enjoyed the AI and the other stuff I've been working on. So maybe when I said that I'd learned something new this year, I think I might be going in that direction, doing more than that. So maybe I'll be able to fulfill my part with some kind of cool AI project.
Awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing it, and I hope that everyone listening to this podcast goes and takes a look at another maker's videos, comment something nice. Also, please go look at Dianna Physics Girl's videos as well, and maybe leave some positive words, because I think her partner is reading them to her. So it'd be really nice if you folks can go do that. And yeah, I hope to catch you guys on the next episode. Thanks again, Another Maker. Really appreciate you coming last minute, unprepared to to host the podcast with me, so that people have something to listen to this week.
Well, thanks for having me. I enjoyed it.
All right, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.